Joining us on the podcast once again today is a returning champion to this show and a man who must be quite comfortable doing these interviews after the run he has been on this past month. Of course, we all so thoroughly enjoyed his run from qualifying to the second round of Wimbledon. Not the worst way to make your Grand Slam debut. Of course, many of you also know him as an All-American in singles, doubles, the ITA All-American singles and doubles champion this past year at San Diego. Welcome back onto our podcast, our dear friend Oliver Tarvet. Ollie, it is good to see you. Congratulations on all the success, my friend. How are you feeling after it all has gone down? It's still in the whirlwind?
Yeah, I'm definitely processing it all, but no, it's been really a special couple of weeks. So just trying to, process it all and enjoy the moment as well, because I feel like it doesn't come around too often where you can, really celebrate something like that.
Yeah, no, it was so impressive to see, and again, it's a testament to who you are as a competitor. It's a testament to who you are as a tennis player that so many people were so fast to embrace your game style and your run at Wimbledon. And even before we get into the tennis itself, because trust me, my friend, I've got some questions for you. When did you know you were going to get a wild card into qualifying for Wimbledon? How did that come about for you?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it was based on how I did at the USD Futures. Because I played 2 weeks of futures at USD on the home courts, which was obviously really great for me. And I ended up winning the first week and then got to the semifinals in the second week. And I found out on the day of the semifinals. So then I lost in the semifinals against Trevor and then had to move apartments and then got a flight about 12 hours later straight back to England. So it was pretty chaotic.
That sounds like quite the trip, my friend, for you, certainly. I'm curious, just more broadly, because your success seems to have kicked off a conversation about college tennis at this Wimbledon that has been obviously delightful for someone like me who has celebrated the sport forever. How much of that success do you think was also based on just the college season you had? And, I'm curious how one comes to the attention of their tennis federation to the point where they're like, yeah, this is a guy, I know he wasn't the most highly touted junior, but this is a guy we should be supporting in our tournament.
I mean, yeah, I think the college season had a massive part to play on it. I think it's just if you're doing well in college, I think I had a pretty good season. I think, you look at the other guys like Colton and, and Michael and those kind of guys. I feel like we're playing at a level that's top 200. And I know I don't want to say, like, I'm not saying I can, reproduce the result that I had at Wimbledon like week in, week out, because, I know, just things happen. You might not play well, and in certain days, certain things can happen. But, I think we're all just playing at a really just a really high level, and I think it's no surprise that, as you see, like the Murphy Casone, the Jacob Fernley, the Colton Smiths, that are just like climbing the rankings in 6 months to a year, where they're breaking like top 200 or even top 100. So yeah, I mean the season definitely had a massive part to play. I was riding a lot of confidence, had a lot of good wins there. And it's just constant matches every single week. It's tough not to improve. And then when you go to, the future circuit, you're just ready. College just prepares you. I feel like it's just, the competitive side of it and, just everything that goes on. If you're doing well in college, there's a really, really good chance that's going to translate well to the Pro Tour.
Yeah, no, look at your success again already, sniffing top 400, 5 futures finals, 5 futures titles, by the way, now for you, my friend. Congratulations on that. But you mentioned that quick transition. You're going from a college season where since September, we'll be generous and say you've played 50 total matches. That's a ton of taxation on the body. All of those have been on hard court. What was it like for you to prepare on the grass courts? Had you had any prior grass court experience going into this Wimbledon?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I spent the last 3 years on a hard court, and I kind of was. I remember the last time I played on grass court was Junior Wimbledon, and obviously the courts are like pristine there. So I was like, and they were like, because it's so good and also pretty slow. So I was like, oh, it wasn't actually like too bad. And I got onto the grass at the National Tennis Center, and obviously they're still in really good condition. But I was like, this is tough. Like balls are bouncing, especially because those courts have been played on for like 3 or 4 weeks. They just get chewed up, and the baseline was, as soon as you hit a ball like close to the baseline, it was, it was just a free for all. Like you had no clue where that ball was going to bounce, and it's just tough when the slice comes through really quick. Everything stays really low, and it's you go from especially USD courts where they're really, really lively and the ball's getting up on you, and then you go to the grass where nothing really gets above your waist, and you have to, you can't leave your legs in anything. You have to really get low, and it was a bigger adjustment than I actually thought. But I think clearly I did a pretty good job adjusting. And luckily, I had a good like 5, 6 days on the grass preparing. I play with some, like some of the guys in GB who were there as well, who were preparing for Eastbourne, I think at the time. So it was, yeah, I mean, it was a really good training week, and I definitely needed that because it's definitely an adjustment.
In a training week like that, I apologize for nerding out, but grass court just tennis fascinates me because our sport has gotten so physical. And that physicality is something obviously you thrive with and is one of your greatest skill sets. And to some extent, no matter how hard you try, grass courts neutralize that. And so I'm just curious, does a training session on grass court look different? Are there things you're doing like, hey, let's practice this 3-ball combo? I mean, I know you only had a week, but how different is the actual tennis itself in the preparation?
I mean, it is different for sure because it's honestly the main difference that I had was just big emphasis on the serve and return. Like I mean, yeah, you have the exceptions, but usually if you've got the better serve and the better return, like you're probably going to win that match because it's really tough to move on grass because I feel like I started figuring out when I was like started sliding, but it's very difficult to keep your balance. So it's like you can't really stop because then you just fall and you can't really change direction either. So especially if you get like a good serve in, like especially on like slider on the juice where you like taking the opponent out wide or flat wide on the ad, it's like you have all the options because you can play back behind because it's really tough to change direction quickly, but you can also play open court, because it's just really tough to stop. So it's honestly grass is if it's just sometimes tough to do anything about, like someone hits a good serve and a like good ball three and just like too good. There's nothing I can do where it just a lot of that is just about taking care of what you can control because there's just some things as on a hard court I feel like I can get to more balls and kind of rely on my physicality more but on grass you really need to be willing to get that first strike in because when you're on the run it's just really tough to defend. So it was definitely going back to your point like it was definitely more of an emphasis on kind of setting the tone. That was a big thing at the point like that I was trying to focus on, and you're just getting that first strike in and making a lot of first serve returns because even if it's scrappy just making it and obviously taking care of my serve. That was just a like big focus point that I was working on with Alex Funkhauser, our assistant coach. He was there with me for qualies and the lead up to qualies, and also my coach back in London, Stuart Havelock.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I have a follow-up to that thought specifically as it applies to your game moving forward, but you're a returning champion, so I don't feel stressed in throwing a dumb question your way. Big picture, two-parter. Did you like it? Like, just as a tennis player, as a competitor, did you like grass court tennis? B, do you think there's a place for it in this game? And what I mean by that is, to your answer, you talk about the slippage and the sliding and all the things you are instinctually built to do that if you try to do on this court, I don't mean to say it was career-ending because it's hyperbolic, but there's just doubt injected in a way that probably isn't, even on a clay court, certainly not a hard court. What should we be playing on grass courts with how the game looks in 2025 in your mind?
I mean, to your first point or your first question, I do really enjoy grass. I think it's just something new, and it's it kind of just the novelty of it is just really fun because I feel like grass court, sorry, the hard court is just you kind of know what's happening, whereas the unpredictability, as much as it isn't like it isn't always the nicest thing, it kind of adds an element of surprise to it and a little bit of uncertainty, which you can look at both ways for sure, but I think you kind of got to make the most out of every situation. And it's I think it's just a really nice change up that we're still able to play on the grass, even if it's for a month. And to your second question, yeah, I do think it definitely belongs in in the Pro Tour, especially Wimbledon. I think if you take Wimbledon out, it just loses and you make it on a hard court, I think it just kind of loses its prestige and, all of the history that's associated with that tournament. And, many of the other tournaments, the lead up tournaments to it as well. And I think it's one of those things like, if you want to be the best tennis player in the world, you need to be able to adjust to these certain conditions in tougher conditions because, as I said, there's a little more unpredictability in a grass court than there is on a clay court and certainly a hard court. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think it has definitely has a place, and I think it also allows, even if it's for a month, it allows different players to, kind of have a good run. Like you look at Bublik or someone like that, it allows these guys, or like Chris Eubanks, for example, when he got semifinals, it I feel like it's just interesting because I feel like there's just a little more surprise. I mean, the amount of seeds that lost early in Wimbledon was incredible. It was even Sin. I know he's struggling with his elbow, like he could have lost to Dimitrov. Um, Zverev loses first round. Like it just, I think the uncertainty is actually kind of entertaining, but at the same time, it also shows who's a true champion because they're able to adapt to the toughest, the toughest and most unpredictable conditions.
Yeah, no, you talk about those upsets. The best part was it was college guys, right? Rinderknecht beating Zverev, and obviously fellow San Diegoite in August Holmgren getting the win over Mahac. Like, you could keep going over the list. There's a bunch of names to turn to. It has been fun, and the best part is even after all of that, it's still, and we're recording this Thursday, Sinner Djokovic, Alcaraz Fritz in the semifinals. So it's like this grass court season did serve up a little bit of everything. And, again, to get back to your point of the grass style of tennis you were forced to play, there were some +1 forehands you hit against Alcaraz, and we'll get to the Alcaraz match more broadly, but that match, the Rady match, I watched the at-Main qualifying match, which I want to ask you about as well. Like, where has that Ali Tarvet been? And how do we take that mindset of, you know what, I am going to gun it because, said with love, my friend, you can clearly do it. Like, is this something you saw on grass and you're like, maybe I do bring this back onto the hard courts?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I think it's just especially as a little kid, I was a very defensive tennis player. I was just a counterpuncher. In undoing that, that kind of habitual, just what I go to. It's where everyone was comfortable defending, and it's really tough changing those habits. Don't get me wrong, like Ryan and Alex have been, every day they're telling me to play more offensive and, take the opportunity when it's there. But it's just kind of in my DNA, like it's what I was like raised doing, was just scrapping for points and kind of playing, defensive tennis. So like, but as I said, it's definitely there. It's just, I think it shows a lot of how far I've come, that I'm able to do it, on the biggest stage that I've played at, especially when I'm qualifying and the main draw. But it's just, just making it a habit every day. Just, not being okay with missing, but being okay with making the right errors and, and still committing to my patterns of play, but also, adding and implementing aggressive patterns in there. So yeah, it was definitely nice to see that it came together, especially in the most, important 10 days of my tennis career. As I said, it's definitely something that I'll look to bring to, in the season in January.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's fun to also get your sweat in, get your steps in, and work people down. I know you like your court time, you like your time in front of that crowd, but yeah, it was impressive to see, my friend, and you mentioned it there, that phrase, the most important 10 days of your career. What was it like walking on to the grounds for that first practice? What was it like as you're waiting in the locker room for that first round qualifying match to begin? How prepared were you for those nerves?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was obviously a lot of emotions. But it's kind of weird. Like I actually get still more nervous during a college match than I did was Wimbledon qualifying. I don't know what it is. Like, obviously you're playing for your team and especially, just being here for 3 years, like you run through a brick wall for USD and you really want the best for the program. Especially, is that it's a combined effort. It's not just you that's putting in the effort. In order to be great, it takes all 13, well, we have 13, but, all 13 coaches and teammates to be on board and to be 100% bought in order to get success. But yeah, there definitely was a lot of nerves, especially playing in front of a bigger crowd that I'm used to. But I just think a big emphasis for me was just focusing on what's important, what gives me success. And, for me, that's just writing in my journal and just having little reminders of what I want to do and just what, as I said again, just what makes me good. And I feel like, as soon as I focused on that, like I was fine, the nerves are gone, because at the end of the day, that's fully in my control. Like I know it's Wimbledon qualifying, I know I'm playing in front of a different crowd, but at the same time, I'm still serving every other game. I'm still returning every other game. Nothing from the tennis standpoint changes. And I feel like once I was able to really, kind of focusing on that and just buy into that, my nerves went. I thought I played some really good tennis, especially, because there just were a lot of eyes watching me.
Yeah. Now, you played a lot of high-level tennis, obviously, all season long at San Diego and saw the best of the college world, all those guys having the success they are. How does that level compare to what you saw in slam qualies, against an Atman, against Lexi, who obviously used to play college tennis at the number one spot, very high level, even that 3 out of 5 against Block? How different was that level? I know it's grass court, so it's different tennis, but to what you see at the number one position?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I can only speak for them playing one match, the match that I play with them. I'm not saying if, the level they produce against me was representative of their, day in, day out level, but I mean, for sure it's there. And I even think the top level of college tennis is maybe even better, than that level. I think it's just, like college tennis, the people are realizing and, believing in it more that it's just a really, really good route to go. And the level is just getting better and better each year with, more top juniors, like you look at like Rafa Hordar or something like that. He's the best junior in the world, who won the US Open. Even he's still committing to college. Um, so yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think there's a big difference. Yeah, maybe with the guys who are like top 100 main draw, there might, yeah, maybe a bit of a difference. But for the most part, as I said, back to what I said earlier, it's like you look at like the Murphy Gasol and the Colin Smith, like those guys, they're climbing through the rankings for a reason, and it's just because they're at the top of college, and the top of college is just so competitive and such a good level that you find yourself that you're competing with guys top 200, and you're even beating guys top 200 or someone like Spizzirri, for another name. So I mean, to answer your question, it's definitely I think the level is the same and maybe if not better.
Yeah, no, it's again, you win a first round match, Pennington Jones wins a first round match. Like these are guys who are playing college tennis this year, so certainly some names and results to back that point up. And obviously, third round qualifying at Wimbledon, 3 out of 5 set match. We talked about this when we had you on in December, how you had trained with Brandon Nakashima in the build up to the Australian Open. But had you played a full 3 out of 5 set match before? Like no interruptions before that third round qualifying? Is it more mentally, physically taxing?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't,
Yeah.
I played best of three, but that was it. So, I mean, it was weird. I honestly didn't really know what to expect going into that match. Like I spoke with Alex about it and and Stuart as well. And I for me, obviously I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of just like winging it and hoping for the best. But there was just a big emphasis on me starting the set well, just making sure that I'm not chasing, because I feel like it's very emotionally taxing when you go like 0-3 down, then you have to work your way back up and then even win a set. Like that takes a lot out of you than really starting strong and having a massive emphasis on, like hopefully going up an early break, because it's a lot easier to front run and take care of your serve than it is, to hold your serve and to break and then to do it again to win the set. Like it just takes a lot out of you. And there's also just finding the right times to push as well. Like it's something that I need to work on, but for me, I couldn't. I think it would have been really tough for me to stay 100%, mentally and physically, like focused throughout that whole match. Like it's just difficult when, you could be out there for 5 hours. So it's just finding, if it's 3-3 or 4-4 in the set, really making a push then. But for the main part, just really having an emphasis on just taking care of your serve. And, as I said, there's going to be games where you just can't do much about because of just the way that the grass court is. So yeah, it was. I didn't really know what to expect, but that's what I tried to focus in with, with Alex and Stuart, and like luckily it worked out for me, and especially in the first round again, it was, but it was, that also kind of same thing, just taking care of my serve and just making pushes when I feel necessary. And yeah, I mean, luckily I feel like I did a pretty good job just managing my emotions and the fatigue that comes with it, and having two good wins in my first best of 5 set matches.
Yeah, again, first major, you qualify in, you win a first round match, remarkably impressive. You match up with Carlos Alcaraz, and you get to play on center court. And I've tried, 20 minutes in this conversation, tried my best to wait as long as possible to bring it up. What's more stressful, playing Alcaraz or being asked about playing Alcaraz in the 2 weeks since, probably by everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say being asked by everyone, like there was definitely a lot of questions. Even when the draw came out, I like did the interviews that day, and they were like, "Oh, if you beat Reedy, then you play Alcaraz." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've got to beat Reedy first." Like it's just the most irrelevant question ever. Like, let's focus on Monday before we even focus on Wednesday. And yeah, it was a cool kind of motivation and incentive to beat Reedy, to play on probably the most prestigious court in the world, and play in front of that many people, and probably maybe the best tennis player right now in the world. Like it was a good motivation. It was definitely in the back of my mind, but the people, like the news reporters, wanted me to say something stupid. And I was like, look, like the most important thing right now is Monday. Like Reedy is like, I don't understand how you can look past someone who's just qualified for Wimbledon. So yeah, I did get asked about it a lot, but it was, as I said, it was just a really, really cool opportunity for me, and to see how I would level up against, as I said, probably the best player in the world right now.
Yeah, no, it's a credit to you. I really liked in one of your media sessions you did when asked who's your favorite player, you said Blake Castay. That was funny. Yeah, I got the laugh from me for what it's worth. And yeah, like I can only imagine the press going into that, just all the additional attention. And then you get on court and you get to feel it against, again, the guy who just won the French Open title, a guy who you could argue his best is the best in the world right now of everyone. I have a million questions to ask. Here's where I'll start. How paralyzing is the drop shot? Like, is it in the back of your mind at all times?
I mean, I got done by it once in like the first set, and I actually think I won more points
Yeah.
like when he drop shotted than he did. I think he did a really good job chasing it down, and like actually kind of playing a bit of cat and mouse. Like I feel like I won a lot of those exchanges. So it definitely was in the back of my mind. Like I've seen how good his drop shots are, and especially because it's kind of tough because you have to give space because his forehand is just so big. Like you can't hold the baseline. But at the same time, like he's got one of the best drop shots in the world. So you're like, okay, like what do I do? If I hold my court positioning, his forehand is going to blow me off the court. But if I give a little bit of space, he's just going to drop shot me, and then I'm just like no way near it. So it was kind of just finding out well, I feel like I did a pretty good job, like recognizing when he was going to drop shot and when he was going to hit the forehands. So like that was the one part that I was like pleasantly surprised about how what I did, especially on the grass court when it's tough to move, like getting up to those drop shots and doing something with it.
That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I thought you did an exceptional job covering that ball in particular. But to your point, I have a theory that the most dangerous thing in tennis right now is Carlos Alcaraz on the ad side loading for a forehand, because he could bazooka it inside out. He could bazooka it inside in, or to your point, you give him the space and you're just because he's going to drop shot you and the match is over.
Oh,
like,
100%.
what is it like to face that ball? Like, how big is it? What was the counter that you came up with in your head? And by the way, who gets to make that game plan? Ryan, Funk, or Stu?
I mean, yeah, it was definitely tough. But it was honestly, I didn't really have a game plan. I was, the main thing for me was just first of all just getting out of my own head and just
Yeah.
being myself. That was like the first thing that I had a massive emphasis on, because it's easy just to kind of, as you said, get paralyzed by everything. It's just. I'd never played in front of a crowd that big, especially against a player of his caliber. And, I had a lot of eyes watching me. And it was just, I feel like I had a massive emphasis on just enjoying the moment and enjoying the opportunity, because at the same time, this is what I worked for, like I'm not like, this is what I had to remind myself, is that all the hard work that I've put in, like I deserve to be here. And, it was kind of especially nice in the the 3 days that I had in between qualifying and the main draw is that I feel like I belong because I qualified. I'd earned my spot there. And I had to remind myself, nothing changes. Like I've won my first round match. Like I've earned this opportunity to play Alcaraz. Enjoy the moment, and not only just enjoy it, but also like get after him a little bit. And I mean, I mean, not between me and you, but I was something that really kind of fired me up. I was pretty nervous, and then like I was just like it was like an hour and a half before the match, and Wimbledon posted something that I said in the press conference that
Yeah.
said, um, like I'm quietly confident that I can beat anyone. Like Alcaraz isn't an exception. I was reading through the comments, and like they were saying this guy's an idiot, like whatever, and I was like, right, like I've had enough of this. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna see what I can do here. I feel like that really, like all the nerves that I had when I read that just vanished, and I was like, okay, let's see what I can do because it's as you said, like I play my best tennis when I could find something like personal to kind of hang on to, and it's people who, I'm not obviously I didn't like I knew the odds were heavily heavily stacked against me being Alcaraz. Like I'm not delusional, but at the same time, like I still thought, I'm not sure if it was, if it was true or not, but I still like hold on to if on a certain day, if I play my best tennis, there could be a chance. And, and that's kind of what people, I think I got a little bit of backlash for maybe, but at the same time, you've got to be confident. At the end of the day, like I'm not there just to shake Alcaraz's hand. Like I'm going to go after him. Like I might as well just shake his hand in the locker room before if I didn't have, just a glimmer of hope that I can actually go out there, play my best tennis and see what happens. And I feel like that really fired me up. And, going back to your point, the game plan was just to go out there, just be myself, be physical and, as I said, make a lot of first serves, take care of what I can take care of and just go out there and, just, as I said, be myself and, be as competitive as I am, on court one at USD.
Yeah, no, between us, I love the quote. Like, I was like, that's Ollie Tarvet. And now you get to know, it was essentially how I read it was, yes, this is my first time playing Carlos Alcaraz. But it's also his first time playing me. And it's like, it's an experience for both of us in this sport. And again, if you've played competitive tennis, I so thoroughly see the point. I loved it. I don't know if you've gone back and watched the film yet. Maybe you will at some point. Is there one thing, if you could go back and do it differently, or we'll put it like this, the next time you play Carlos Alcaraz, what might you do a little bit differently?
I mean, definitely, I think I needed to work on a little bit my forehand. I think I was getting a little bit exposed on, especially when I think he figured out a little bit that he started just drilling backhand's line. And, it's something that I've got a lot better at is just working to the right on my forehand. It's something that I'm going to continue to improve with Alex and Ryan. But I also, what I've done differently, I mean, yeah, I mean, I would have maybe tried to play more aggressively because I feel like as soon as he gets on his front foot, it's just as soon as you drop your quality and give him time, he's just incredible. Like he punishes you for every short ball that you hit, and you just feel the pressure. Like that you have to be hitting depth every single time, otherwise you lose the point. And it's just intimidating when I feel like it's tough not to kind of go out of your comfort zone and not go for something that that you don't usually do when you have the presence of Alcaraz and just who is just gonna eat up anything that's short. And especially I remember when I missed my first serve in the second game because I chose to receive. Like he just took like he's inside the baseline and I'm like, oh no, here we go. Like I felt like it was just intimidating when you just see Alcaraz just like just moving forward and stepping inside the baseline and he's gonna absolutely clobber a second serve return. But yeah, back to your point, I think I definitely would have tried to play a little more aggressively and take it to him. So I feel like I did have, I know he's an incredible mover, but at the same time, as I said, it's tough to move on the grass, and I feel like I have more success coming forwards than I am going to have me defending against Alcaraz. So obviously it's a lot easier said than done because it's not easy to play offensive tennis against Alcaraz. His ball is so heavy and he maintains such good quality that it's just, as I said, it's just tough to find openings where you can play like offensive and aggressive patterns and get him running. But that's just a big emphasis that I would have tried to do because, at the end of the day, if I'm not taking my opportunity, he's just going to eat me up.
No, it's a very good point to make, and I feel bad for all of the players who next season are going to face you at number one when they try to drop shot you. You're like, yeah, that's cute, but it's not Alcaraz, so I'm going to get to that. And, to that point, I'm sure you've been asked about it, and I know it was something you probably thought about tremendously in the moment, and I'm sure it had to help to have Ryan, Alex there on site with you, but it's a lot of prize money reaching the second round of Wimbledon, prize money that, to your point, you just went out and earned, and yet you have been adamant. I am coming back for my senior season at San Diego, and obviously, accordingly, there are only so much you can do with that prize money. What was that decision like in the moment? Because it's a fast decision you have to make. It's a really high-pressure decision. Just talk me through how you went about, again, kind of confirming in that moment, you know what, no, I'm still thinking I'm coming back.
I mean, I'll be honest, it wasn't really a difficult decision for me. Like I remember Ryan, I think he got a little bit scared when I qualified and I called him and I was like, Kex, like I'm not going anywhere. Like I don't, like I don't understand why 3 or 4 matches, obviously they're important matches, it doesn't change anything for me, like obviously the things that UFC have done for me, I have an incredible amount of loyalty for them. USD is just a whole just means, just so much to me. I'd run through a brick wall for every single one of my teammates and coaches. So, obviously there is still a lot of things that I want to achieve in the Pro Tour, but there's also a lot of still like things that I want to achieve with USD. And at the end of the day, I've got my whole life to play professional tennis. I've only got another year of college. So, while I can, I really want to make the most of that and really stamp my mark on USD history and achieve, again, like Sweet 16 is just a massive thing. Like you tell me if I would rather, win a challenger or to get Sweet 16, I don't know what I'd tell you because, those things like, both mean an incredible amount to me. Just the amount of work that I've put in and everyone else has put in at USD to get where we are. We've achieved an awful lot, especially last season was an incredible season, but with the injuries that we had with Ito and Lambo, it just made, it just made it a lot tougher. And that Sweet 16 was, didn't quite happen, but, for sure, if everyone's healthy, I know we're hopefully going to get one more guy coming in, maybe, there's no reason why we can't get to the Sweet 16 or even Elite 8. So yeah, back to your point, there wasn't really a decision period for me. Like even with the prize money, I'm still figuring out with USD admissions, what the situation with that. We're working, like very hard to make sure that my eligibility isn't compromised because it's a massive thing for me. Like if it means not taking the prize money, it means not taking the prize money, like that's not like I would much rather come back for a season and take, obviously the 100,000 pounds that I made is a great sum of money and it obviously will kickstart my career. But, as I said, like I wouldn't be in this situation without USD. And I feel like I can't, I feel like it's very easy to forget that and get caught up in the whole situation. And I'm not saying that USD doesn't want the best of my pro career because that they want what's best of me. And, they're not holding me back. If I want to go pro, I can go pro. But it's me that, at the end of the day, I'm in this situation. I'm making this decision because you look at me 3 years ago, I was, I wasn't anything. I'm not saying I was bad, but I also, I feel like I was a pretty average recruit. And then you look at me now, like, I'm not saying I'm anything too special, but I'm a lot further ahead than I was 3 years ago. And, at the end of the day, that is because of USD. So, and again, there are still a lot of things I need to improve on. I feel like as great as it is, having a good 10 days, you got to do that 35, 40 weeks of a year. And I think give me another year and I will be able to produce that level that I showed at Wimbledon, maybe even higher, week in, week out on the Pro Tour. And then I think I can really, like, as I said, like as many other guys have done, just climb through the rankings pretty quickly.
I love that. You've spoken obviously many times in the past as well as today about Ryan and Funk and the job that they have done in helping you develop and what San Diego means to you. My last two questions to get to see, and if you have gone back and watched it, Funk and Ryan, I'm sure you've seen the photos. First of all, they looked good in the player box. Like they brought their best on that day, and to have that sort of moment for San Diego men's tennis, not just from yourself, but again to have August have the success that he had that week as well, and to hear San Diego men's tennis just brought up synonymously with your success all week. Had to have felt good, did it not? I don't really have a question there, just an observation. What did you feel that in the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it was really special, having August there, obviously great guy, and, seeing him succeed as well, because, obviously he's an incredible hard worker, and kind of it just all came together just for USD in 1 week. August obviously came through a lot of tight matches and a lot of like tight moments. And also me having a really great week as well. It was just great that August and I kind of shared those moments together, and USD shared that, that 10 days together. I mean, August was a little bit longer, so he got to the third round. But yeah, it was just really special, and especially when Ryan came down after we both qualified for main draw, seeing everyone there, having Alex and Ryan, it was really special. August, I know he watched my whole match against Alcaraz on Hemon Hill, and I was watching his match when he played Mahatch. So yeah, it was just really special to kind of have two toreros really show that what we produce here like is really is a really good product for the pro tour. It's not just producing good college tennis players, but what we work on a day-to-day basis in San Diego translates to the top level of the ATP Pro Tour.
Yeah, no, again, you see it certainly, and obviously I know where things are from the team side. You guys have some unfinished business coming off of last year, but for you now, summer, fall, what does that schedule look like? There was a report that you're going to go play. I think you said it to someone that you're going to go play pros this fall. I just figured I'd ask you myself here. What does that schedule look like for you as you get ready for the dual match start next January?
Yeah, so I'm gonna take the fall off, just so I can focus on tennis to just professionalize everything that I can. And, I will hopefully come back eventually to finish my degree, but yeah, I'm gonna play. So I'm back in San Diego right now, and I'm gonna play the Lexington Challenger with one of my accelerator spots. Then I'm gonna go back home, and I'm still trying to figure this out. Obviously, I was supposed to be in Canada right now playing the 275Ks in Winnipeg and Granby, but things changed for it was a nice surprise, but it wasn't poor planning on our part, but we had a really good plan A, but we didn't really have a plan B. So when I got the call up Wimbledon, and then I qualified and then won a round, I was like, okay, now what do we do? So we're just trying to figure out what's best for me now, and I think that's playing Lexington and then going home, and maybe I might play a couple challenges in Greece, the 250Ks, and then I'm going to be with Sebastian Ray from September until December, who I'm sure you know very well is also a former USD coach, and it's great to have him, especially just back at USD, and I know him and Ryan have a really great relationship, and so does him and Alex. So I'm be working with him for then, and I'm going to be playing just the challenges. I'm probably going to play Las Vegas. There's one in Tiburon, Fairfield, and then maybe some more, not in California, like Columbus or Sioux Falls, something like that. So that's what I'm going to be doing, just playing some challenges. But again, the main thing for me is, as much as it is great to see my ranking go up. Like, the most important thing for me right now is just making sure that my level is as high as possible for when, not only for January, because obviously the season is really important, but also, when I finish, when I finish college and I, go full-time professionals. Because at the end of the day, like, it's, as I said, it's great, get my ranking up, and it is important, but at the same time, my main priority is, getting my level up for the spring, and then also getting my level as high as possible. So, I'm able to hopefully win as many matches as I can, come next May, and really just climb those rankings.
Yeah, well, certainly, my friend, you are an excellent representative of college tennis, and to see your success, so thoroughly deserved. I know how much time you spend on court, and I'm glad the whole world got a taste of it as well. It was really fun to get to see, and again, such thoroughly deserved success. Appreciate you taking the time. Listeners should know, again, guy's phone must have been blowing up. Even took the time to respond to my texts as well. So that just tells you what sort of person Oliver Tarvet is. Ali, I appreciate you taking the time today, my friend. Be safe, be healthy. Good luck with all the pro events, and looking forward to having you on the podcast after your next success, my friend.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Alex.